Well, welcome everyone. My name is Celeste Fetta. I'm Director of Education here at VMFA, and I'm really delighted to welcome Koy Depompeo and Melissa Bailey, who are with Stone Brewing Company. Hi, Koy and Melissa.
Hello.
They are joining us for Taste of Art presented by Chase, and thank you, Chase, our sponsor. This is a little bit different one. Usually we do this live, but hopefully you're watching this and has premiered on November 27th, the day after Thanksgiving, and you had a safe and healthy Thanksgiving. And thanks so much for joining us. But you can watch this video anytime on our YouTube channel. So usually we have a chat that goes along with this, but it'd just be the three of us chatting about your offerings from Stone and some works of art from the collection. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about what you do and what is Stone Brewing Company.
All right. Awesome. Stone Brewing Company is great. Sorry. Yeah, Stone Brewing Company. Yeah, we got our start in 1996 in San Diego, California. And we are one of the larger craft breweries in the United States right now. We opened up several years ago here in Richmond, so this is our East Coast home for the brewery. So yeah, I am the Richmond Sales Representative for the brewery, and Melissa.
Yeah, and I am the Coastal Territory Manager, so I have everything east of Richmond and Virginia, and then also the eastern half of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I've been with Stone for about 3 years. And Koy for a little over 2, right?
Yeah, a little over 2.
Yep. So this is home for us now, which is super fun.
And we're looking at a photo of Stone right here in Richmond. So Can you tell us a little bit about the site and kind of where you all are located?
Sure. So we're in the Fulton district of Richmond, which Koy knows more about than I do. It's really cool, our proximity to the river and the railroad tracks. So we have this really great vibe. You'll see a picture of our bistro in Southern California here soon. What's nice is sort of we're a little opposite of what they do in Southern California. So we're bringing our East Coast home in a completely different way that matches where we are, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right on the river. I mean, as you can see from the photo, we got great views, like super accessible to the city. You know, it's a very old historic part of the city, so we feel really excited to be part of that and kind of open up, you know, something new here. And the Richmond brewing scene and the Virginia craft brewing scene is blowing up over the years. You know, we've got a great thing happening in the state. So yeah, it just made a lot of sense for Stone to come here, and the city's been really good for us.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you. And this is an interior shot of the tasting room at Stone, and that's still open right now. As of
it is. Yeah, it is. And we've got a very large outdoor patio seating as well on the inside. You know, we've taken a lot of measures this summer, you know, because of COVID to make sure everything's clean and tables are you know, well spaced. But our tasting room staff does a fantastic job.
Great. And then this is not only a tasting room there, obviously, but actual production happens and a lot of it, right?
So I love this picture because this picture is actually taken from the vantage point of our second floor. So this is our brew house that you see here, the kettle. And these are we have a 250 barrel kettle. So our brew house is 250 barrels. To give you a sort of comparison, and even our home location in San Diego is only 150 barrels. So we're doing a lot more capacity. And then our fermenters, all of our core beers go into fermenters that are 1,000 barrels. So the brewers will brew in this kettle 4 times just to fill one of our fermenters, which is pretty neat. So these vessels are huge. I mean, the capacity of them is insane.
Yeah. And to give anybody who, like, I always do this when I've given tours, you know, for customers or friends who aren't familiar with what a barrel is. You know, most people have seen a keg of beer. The large keg of beer is a half barrel. So when you see these huge tanks, and you can actually see them when you drive by the brewery. If you look, you see these large.
We have a tank farm on the building.
Yeah.
Our tank farm. It's so the vessels are so big that they get shipped on a barge down the James. So you see almost in the center, and like the left center, there are those little silver, right there. So tank farm. The big ones on the left are our fermenters, and then the ones on the right are the bright tanks where we hold the beer until we package. So it's really neat that we can provide space for that even externally, because they're all it's heavily insulated.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't know the answer to this, that's okay. But like in terms of shipping from Richmond, I mean, does the beer that's produced there, does it go nationwide, or does it kind of feed the East Coast?
It goes, the beer here goes west to right around the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah,
so Richmond, a very large portion of the U.S.
Yeah, I think the way that they break up the brewing, because our capacity is so much bigger than California, I think the way that they break up the brewing or the shipping is that we, for the most part, service everything east of the Rockies, and then the Southern California breweries do everything west of the Rockies and then ship overseas, because we actually have Stone tasting rooms in China and Berlin, Germany. So we're doing big things in Europe and Asia as well.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And we have lots of room to grow here too. So I mean, this facility was built with the expectation that it's still keeps growing, that we could just keep making more beer.
That's awesome. And do you produce everything in the line of Stone that Stone has to offer, or is there kind of a way that that's broken up between the two coasts as well?
We produce them. All of our core beers are produced here, as well as some of our special release. We manufacture all of our mix packs here as well, but there are occasionally beers that are brewed in California that get shipped east because of the limited capacity. Okay. When it comes to really expensive ingredients and things like that, they try and keep that localized to one space so that we can cut costs on having to, ship ingredients from one place to another.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I'm excited. I mean, I didn't know that so much was produced here in Richmond and kind of shipped all over the states. That's something to be proud of.
Yes,
really
for
cool.
sure.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this. We can pop over to the West Coast, to the San Diego location. And this is where really it all started for Stone, right? I mean, in terms of the beginning.
Yeah. And not even that. I mean, this is our bistro, I'm not sure even how many years we've had this open, but I mean, the two co-founders of Stone started brewing basically in a garage in like a strip mall in 1996. Very, very, very small, like, practically home brewer production, and it just took off from there. So definitely some very grassroots, but San Diego is still our home. It's one thing we talk about as Richmond or Virginia, sales reps here, is that the transparency, like we are still like a San Diego brewery. We have definitely deep roots there, as we'll get into when we talk about the beers.
Yeah.
But this is our new home out here. But yeah, as you can see, it's especially with the San Diego climate, it's always really lush and just gorgeous out there. A lot of live green space.
And one of the big things that I've always really appreciated about working at Stone is that because we are sort of born and raised in Southern California and now are bicoastal, being from California and in California, being green is really important, especially when it comes to water. And so Stone has brought some of that really green sort of idea for having a big company, especially in manufacturing and using as much water as we do, to Richmond. We have a water reclamation system for the steam and the kettle that we use. And we're always really conscious about how we're making sure that we're protecting the environment that's around us. So much so that we get goats from the Richmond Goat Rescue to cut the grass.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah. It's always a nice little attraction to see the goats out there. They love
it. Do they drink the beer? Come on.
They do not drink the beer.
Oh.
I'm going to ask that. Do the goats get beers at the end of the day? They do not get paid. Lots of it's a very green space out here. It's right outside the window that we're sitting in, but the goats take good care of it. So.
That's awesome. Well, that's really great to hear. Thank you for stewarding the environment so well. Definitely needed right now.
I agree.
So let's get into some beers. We'll talk about the first one you selected for us to try. So again, if you're watching this video, take a pause, grab your beer.
I'm gonna grab a cold one here.
Yeah. And this is the Stone Buenaveza.
Stone Buenaveza. So a little bit about this beer. This was, we got it in both cans and bottles. Upside down. Should we talk about the? Should we
Yeah,
talk about the upside down?
We might as well go and do that.
Want to do that first?
You might see some of our bottles and cans with the labels upside down. We have been going through this really cool marketing campaign called "Leave No Stone Unturned." So for most of our beers, we have labeled them upside down so that when you're drinking them, you can look at them.
Nice.
Which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
A lot of it too is because of the quality of our beer. Our beer is clean and clear all the way through. You can drink it till the last drop. You don't have to save any of it in the bottom because of sediment or anything like that. Even the hazy ones don't have to be swirled and then, with the last few sips in the bottom, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. The cans and bottles won't be like that forever. As sales reps, we get that question daily. Yeah. Still, with your can, what's up with the labels? So it was just a thing kind of end out to 2020 year with us, with our marketing. We just crested 500,000 followers on our Instagram.
Oh.
I suggest anybody who's watching, if you're on Instagram, if you like our beer, please follow us.
Definitely.
Our team out in California and here in Richmond does a great job with all of our social media. So
for sure.
So it made really good social media videos to see the can being pulled, the camera tilt. So there's some thought put into it.
And upside down is very 2020. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, so Buenaveza.
So this beer is this is our first year selling it, especially out here in the East Coast market, 2020. Mm-hmm. It's a definitely an homage to our roots, our San Diego roots. It is a Mexican style lager, and we adopted the clever tagline, imported from San Diego.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean Stone, being a almost 25-year-old brewery from San Diego. Yeah, absolutely. We have very, very strong roots too, like that Baja, like that SoCal beach culture. So this has just been a really popular beer for us. One of our personal favorites, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Stone makes a lot of big IPAs. It's kind of what we've been popular for a long time. So
one of the things, I poured a lot of this in here so that we could show you the color of it.
It's really pretty.
It is a Mexican style lager. So as you can imagine, like a Corona or any other Mexican beer, it's going to be really light in color and also light in flavor. We did add lime and salt to it. The lime is not super fruity. It's more like a zest. So you get it, I would say mostly on the nose.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, and it doesn't taste artificial. I mean, that's one thing. We have some fruited beers also that we sell, and we use real fruit in everything. It's one of the tenets of Stone, as we talked about earlier, being like a really green conscious company, is to not put artificial ingredients, artificial flavoring and stuff. So yeah, a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of lime. It's just back up. I'm going to try it here. Melissa is not drinking beer right now. Yeah. We should say I will be the beer drinker for the tasting.
Sorry about that.
So as people are drinking this, Koy and Melissa, I mean, you mentioned kind of the lime on the nose. Like, are they going to taste any of the lime while they're should they be looking for those notes as they're drinking, or is the salt going to be a little bit more prominent here?
Absolutely. I always get tastes, or I get notes of salt and lime when I drink. Definitely get on the nose, and kind of like wine, and you swirl a little bit, it brings out some of the aromatics. Mm-hmm. So I always get some lime. I've been selling this all year long. I'm sure you have 2 different customers, and everybody's a little bit different, I think, when it comes to tasting. These tastings are great to kind of give some of our feedback as far as what what our intentions with the beer and stuff. But so often with beer and wine, with anything really, people have their own unique experience. So I've tasted this to people that don't taste much lime, and some people are very sensitive to it. They taste a lot. But we'd wanted hints of it. So I think when you taste it, you're going to get the hint of lime. The salt kind of comes through on the back end, and salinity with the lime just works really well.
Mm-hmm.
I often say this. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Melissa.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I often say the same thing about art. You can have the same work of art, and like, depending on who you're talking to, their impressions of it are going to be a little bit different.
Absolutely.
For sure. And this particular beer too, because of the style that it is, we really wanted it to be approachable, not just to the craft beer drinker, but really to everybody. Especially, if you haven't been introduced to a craft beer that you like, if if you typically pick up the Corona or, you know, the Modelo or whatever in the grocery store, this is a really fun way to introduce yourself to some real ingredients and some really good quality beer without totally killing your taste buds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. You know, it's good to use a generic term of the lawnmower beers. You know, everybody needs.
For sure.
You know, I think, you know, we sell beer. We're around beer. So many friends in the industry. We all love craft beer, but sometimes you need to take a break and just drink something that's a little like lighter and refreshing. Yeah. So it's been a really, really good, unique, you know, addition for Stone. It's actually the original intention was beer was just to have it as a seasonal. It was supposed to have been like a 4-month run of a seasonal beer, and it's already sold so well for us, and we all loved it personally at the brewery. It's going to be available year round.
That's cool, and I love how you
Richmond.
Yeah. Oh, good. I was thinking it's cool that you're actually responding to kind of what your customers are saying about it, you know, and so seeing the need for that and answering that need, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the packaging. There's this not only on the bottle, but this great, like this case packaging is pretty cool too, with kind of the skull and what that signifies, you know, and brings to mind with the beer.
Yeah. Well, again, I think coming out of San Diego with that culture down there, the sugar skull, you know, with the roots of Southern California, it's just it definitely lended itself really well to our traditional graphic with the gargoyle. So you know, something Stone is always well known for is the gargoyle, which is you know, for us was the intention of warding off the bad ingredients, the bad beer.
I was gonna ask that.
We often get, I think Stone's often gotten you know, people say like, oh, why is it the devil, or why is it a demon or Satan on your, and it's not, you know, the history with gargoyles is to ward off evil spirits. So that was always the intention, but it's become very iconic for us. So, you know, and I think we're seeing some of it, which you can't even see here, but we have some other, I think, new artwork that'll be coming up, and it incorporates kind of the sugar skull with the gargoyle.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I love the bright colors, you know, of it too, and the way that the skull kind of like wraps around the can. It's just really ingenious in terms of the graphic. Sure. Well, as we're kind of, as well as you're tasting, and hopefully as people are tasting, we'll kind of go through and talk a little bit about some art that links up with this selection. So kind of the theme as we go through the art that comes up, I really was drawn to this idea of kind of West Coast and the San Diego roots and how the influence of Mexico kind of comes up and into the selections, at least, that we'll be looking at today. So I brought in Brett Weston. He's a photographer who is pretty well known for two reasons. One, he's the son of Edward Weston, who was really a pioneer in photography. And this is Brett Weston here in the photograph on the right at work. And then on the left is the cover of one of his portfolios, the Baja California portfolio, which is really close to San Diego. So to give a little bit of feel of kind of the roots of Stone and in terms of location. And Brett Weston has a really cool kind of story as well. So he's one of 5, and his father, as I mentioned, really famous photographer, actually took Brett with him to Mexico, and they lived in Mexico for a year when he was 13. So pretty impressionable time, and brought him on as his assistant. So this is a photo of Edward Weston, his father, taken by Tina Modati, who is a model for his father. But also was in the same circles as Frida Kahlo. Her and Frida Kahlo were pretty close, and Diego Rivera, and also Jose Orozco. This is a work from our collection on the right. And so he was hanging out kind of in these artistic circles and really started to be influenced in terms of composition and contrast. So you see this in this print, this kind of dark and light contrast, and that's going to really show up later in his photography as he goes forward. And actually he first exhibited when he was only 17. So kind of like a photography prodigy in a way. And this is one of the images from the Baja portfolio from our collection, cacti. And he was really interested in plants and nature, and really saw them not only as subject matter, but he started to really put them in an abstracted way. So if you look at this, I mean, you can tell it's cacti, but again, you get that really dark parts and the really light parts showing up. And you get kind of an abstraction, especially in those dark parts of the photograph. And just some other examples from the same portfolio. And again, these are all in our collection. These aren't up right now. Photographs, anything on paper, you have to rotate. On the left is Boats on Bay, which again, I can see someone drinking one of those salt and lime lagers, sitting on the bay for sure. And then on the right is Turtle Skeleton, which again links back to the graphic of the skeleton face. And again, very abstractive. Like if I had said turtle skeleton, I mean, when I first looked at this without seeing the title, I had no idea what it was. Like no clue. It just seemed very abstract, and it is abstract to me, and I couldn't figure it out until I read that title. And that's again very purposeful on Brett Weston's part. And really, this idea of Mexico never really. I mean, it's a big influence upon him, and he always kind of talks about it and goes back to it. And over his career, he did about 14 portfolios like this because he wanted to give access to art to people. So as a way to kind of get his prints out there. Again, accessible, user-friendly, and that was a big part of kind of what he felt. And also really important for him to capture nature. That was, again, a very strong theme for him. So that kind of gives you a lay of the land, quote unquote, for San Diego, or the feel of kind of where the brewery started from. And then the next work I'd love to talk about is this piece by Luis Barreto. He's Mexican painter. This is from the mid 18th century, and this is the Virgin of Guadalupe in our collection. This is on view now, so you can come and see this in our the Great Hall, or the Tapestry Hall. It's got a great location. It's a huge painting. And this is this is a synonymous image with Mexico. You would see this, it's a very ubiquitous image in Mexico. She is the patron saint of Mexico City. And this story of the Virgin of Guadalupe comes from 1560. So the story is the Virgin appeared to an Aztec peasant named Juan Diego as a vision, so on a hill near Guadalupe. And you can see sort of this happening in this painting. So in the four corners, I don't know if you can see, there are four corners to the painting, and it sort of tells the story of Juan Diego. So he sees her on the hill here, and then she sends him on this journey to go see the Archbishop, and the Archbishop doesn't believe him. And so he goes back to the hill. She appears again down here, and she tells him to gather up the roses that have suddenly appeared, right, in this barren landscape. So if you can just picture a complete desert, and then all of a sudden there's this lush rose bush. So he's gathering here, and I don't know if you can make out, but he's got roses in his cloak. And so he gathers them up in the cloak, and then he takes them to the bishop here. And as he's opening the cloak, the roses fall out, and this image of the Virgin appears on his cloak. So that's this image here, and that's what Luis Barroco is celebrating here.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is great. I love the artwork that you've picked out for this whole tasting. Yeah, and it feels, again, this to me, this, as we discussed these beers, before we did this, the whole California, the whole Southern California culture of stone. Yeah, I think all this just works really well.
Yeah, and I think the colors in this too, we were talking about, really resonates with the graphic on the can, these kind of like pinks and blues. even here they're very soft, but they're, yeah, a different kind of tonality in the can, but it resonates, I think, quite well with the color scheme.
Yes.
And the artist, Louise, this image, again, lots of artists did this image. It's based on the actual cloak image. So this is the actual cloak at the Basilica of Guadalupe in Mexico City. So you can go there. It's actually the most visited Catholic site in the entire world, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the third most visited religious site in the entire world. And so you can enter there. I read somewhere where you actually like go on a conveyor belt to pass it, so you can it keeps people moving as
Really?
they're at it. Yeah, which is really amazing. But you can see the same kind of composition is very similar. So it's the Virgin of Guadalupe with her hands obviously in prayer and looking contemplative, but this kind of ring or oval halo behind her is very indicative. And it's iconic, really. It's the iconography that you see again and again and again. And when you see this, the Virgin of Guadalupe, even standing on a crescent moon. She's supported by probably Juan Diego. You can see him there. And in the painting from our collection, the same thing. So this kind of halo behind her, oval halo. This either Juan or an angel is propping her up, and she's standing on that crescent moon as well. What differentiates this one from other paintings is the artist has added these little putti who are just kind of flying around, very charming. And again, these sort of roses, the roses that were, gathered up in the cape kind of appear around her. But every painting, again, will have that story told in the four corners. So it's a narrative that people would know and can relate to. And again, you kind of see this, it's very ubiquitous, as I mentioned, not just in Mexico, but in the States. So on the left is the Virgin of Guadalupe in a Day of the Dead parade. And again, connecting back to the sugar skull motif on the can, this is in New Mexico and Albuquerque. And on the right is the Virgin of Guadalupe in Chicano Park in San Diego. So which is a National Historic Landmark, the Chicano Park there. And this is a mural underneath the Coronado Bridge that supports the Coronado Bridge in San Diego. And you were saying, Koy, you were saying that it reminded you of, and there's a train. I see a train.
Exactly, right as we're doing it, you can see right behind me, the train, for those of you who are watching who are familiar with Richmond, this area, Rockets Landing, we've got the train systems that come through, and the elevator tracks go right past our brewery. So, multiple times a day, we'll hear the horns or the screeching. But so when I saw this, when we looked at this right before this recording, it reminded me of the train trestles here, and just it's something that we walk by back and forth to our parking lots every day. There's some cool graffiti that local artists have done. So. Coming from San Diego to here, we both kind of have this connection.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So if you see, the Virgin of Guadalupe on something, now you know the story behind it, which is always good to have that narrative. So hopefully you're enjoying the Buenaveza, and if you are an IPA fan, we're gonna move on to the next selection. So that's the Stone IPA, and I've already confessed to Koy that IPA and I aren't friends. No offense.
That's no. Hey, it's it's not everybody likes everything. It was also we were just talking about everybody's got their own personal taste. So
yeah. So tell us about the Stone IPA. I mean, this is pretty iconic though for the brand, right? For Stone as a brewery.
It is. So the Stone IPA. I'll crack one here. Melissa had to step out, so we'll try to get back onto this very soon. Our Stone IPA is our #1 brand. It's IPA stands for India Pale Ale. People who are familiar with craft beer, it has probably had at least one or two or many different IPAs in the drinking experience. It's definitely the most popular style of craft beer still to this day. So again, this one is iconic for us. This was the beer that we brewed on our first anniversary. It was our first anniversary beer at Stone, so 97.
Oh,
So
wow, okay.
years for us, yeah. And it's just become, we use the tagline you see on the bottom of the packaging, an iconic West Coast style IPA. Within the craft beer industry, right now, there's lots of different types of IPAs depending on where you are regionally, geographically. A lot of them have fruit in it. They just people experiment with lots of stuff. West Coast IPAs are very characteristic of a very big bitter hoppiness. So that's what a lot of people, maybe yourself,
yeah,
you don't like is that bitterness.
Yeah,
I always tell people I feel like it's similar to cilantro. I think people have very contentious. You either love cilantro or hate cilantro, and I very much like that. So, but ours has a lot of big bitter notes to it, but there are lots of notes of fruit. You got a lot of floral qualities to it, and that's just all comes from the hops. There's hundreds, probably thousands of different varieties of hops. So depending on how you brew the beer, you're going to kind of feature and showcase different ones. But it pours very golden color. And one thing I was going to mention too, we had discussed pouring. Typically, when you pour a beer, you want to get some of the head on there.
okay.
I think when I was a young beer drinker, you'd pour beers, and if you saw too much head, my friends would make fun of you. You poured that beer wrong, but actually you do want to get that when you pour into the glass. What it does, it's kind of like with wine as far as the decanting qualities. It opens up the beer. It allows oxygen to come into the beer. So, but this one is filtered, so you see a very nice gold, almost like caramel colors to it. The nose, you get some of the stone fruits on the nose. Again, a lot of floral, a little bit of piney qualities. And it's just a delicious beer. Again, this kind of has defined Stone for the last 25 years. And I think it'll set like a benchmark for a lot of other breweries, and also, specifically like West Coast breweries.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone, I guess, wanted to, would you suggest pairing this with food, or just is this like a beer you drink just on its own?
Both.
Okay.
Both. But yeah, no, it's. I say that because obviously with beer, people do just go out and like to kick back and have beers, but also we sell this to many restaurants, so the food pairings always work well. I like to pair IPAs, the bitter quality. I like to pair them with spicy foods. It's a very good pairing with IPAs. You find them a lot in, say, like Thai restaurants, where you got a lot of hot, peppery qualities to it. And there's something about that bitterness and the hops just works really well with the heat.
Nice. Okay, cool. And the color you mentioned is like that caramel color. Like, where does that come from? Is that part of that brewing process and adding of the hops, or?
Yeah, it's coming. Well, it's coming. The color you're getting is from the malts that are added.
Okay.
So it just depends on how long the malts are roasted.
Gotcha.
See darker beers like we're going to show later. The last one, it's a lot darker, so it's usually like a really dark roasted malt. So it just depends on the malt. We call it a bill, a hot bill or a malt bill. It's like the list of different styles of ingredients that go into it.
Great.
Then and many beers are filtered, including ours, with this one. So the filtration ends up bringing out a blast of the organic matter, all the particulates that might be left in the beer. So you always get the very nice.
Yeah, it's
clear quality.
It's really beautiful as a color, and and just the look of it. It's a really pretty beer. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, see from the photo, it always, that nice head on it. It has a very fresh look. Beer has a very good aesthetic appeal, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to drink it if it looks too weird or too. Now with IPAs, there's lots of different styles, so some of them do look hazy and cloudy, and that all has become very popular as well. This is a beer that we brew year round, and we'll always brew. So
when we're, I did have another question, just thinking about it too. I mean, the name Stone, does that come from like the founder's name, or is that something that they made up for their company? Do you know the origin?
That was made up. Honestly, I'm to be transparent. I don't know the full story behind the Stone name, but yeah, it was neither of the co-founders. Our co-founders are Greg Cook and Steve Wagner.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Stone, especially with the gargoyle, you see a lot of stone gargoyles.
Yeah.
Just worked well together.
Yeah, it does. It's a nice pairing. Just wondering.
Yeah. No, these are good questions. I think all of us beer reps or employees of Stone have at times gotten questions. We're like, I don't know where that comes from. After almost 25 years in business, there's a lot of history. In this brand.
Yeah, I mean, I can say like working in museums too, we get a lot of questions about art. I do not know the answers to, so that is okay. But that's what makes it fun. You always learn something new, and there's always another question to think about and answer. So, So I paired this one, because it's so iconic for your company and one of the oldest, your first anniversary beer, and thinking about just kind of the company's history and feel. We're going to take a look at a work by this artist, who's the figure on the far right, not the dog.
That's the dog.
But this is Roy DeForest, who was an artist based out of California. So he actually out of San Francisco, so a little bit north of San Diego in the Bay Area. He taught at UC Davis, and he loved to incorporate dogs in his work, but all his work is kind of about this journey, or definitely the West, and kind of his kind of idea of a California vibe. So this work is in the museum's collection. It's on view now, again, like in our modern 20th century gallery. It's called Out West. And I thought we would just kind of explore this together for a little bit. And again, this is something, if you haven't been to a museum before or don't know where to start with art, the first thing you can do is just look at it and talk about what you see, like what you see, or describe what you see. And I thought we would just take some time to do that. So in looking at this work Out West, I mean, Koy, what are your first impressions kind of as you take this work in, or what do you notice?
Well, I mean, first I noticed the dog.
Yeah.
Which I've seen other pieces. Does he put his dog in most of his?
Yeah, there are a lot of, he grew up, this is an interesting tidbit about Roy DeForest. He grew up with the same kind of dog, this kind of shepherd dog, like in his childhood. They got the same kind of dog and always named the dog Hector.
Okay.
Just a fun fact. So I don't know if this one's named Hector, but we might go with that. Yeah.
My first impressions, well, one, I love the color schemes. It's there's a lot going on. It's very, very complex, which when you taste the beer like Stone IPA or many great craft beers, you're getting lots of, both aromatic and flavor profiles. So, there's a lot going on. I see this in this photo. It's a lot going on, but it all has a very like fun cohesiveness to it. But the first thing I noticed were the two people that had a very like pioneer quality. It's like, they're being out west. It was like they're coming out there, they're discovering this beautiful land, and for Stone being out west, and also Stone being one of the first larger American craft breweries, especially like on the West Coast coming out of San Diego. It feels somewhat unique to our to our history, our story. Is kind of like pioneering this this company and this whole like craft beer movement. And also the guys are kicked back. They're having fun, which is which beer should be. It's not, they look like they're struggling. This shouldn't be a struggle. These are they're enjoying it. And I feel like if you could put a beer in their hand, they would probably actually like it.
Yeah, I think you're totally
there.
Yeah, these two figures are just kind of this cowboy, like pioneer, like you said, idea. And, he, like I said, like part of what he explores a lot in his art is this idea of the journey, of kind of the path you're taking, the path to get somewhere. And I love that idea that you're expressing about Stone really being like the pioneer in kind of craft brewing in California. That's really a great link up. And the dogs and the color. And I will say, like, all the dots that you're seeing are dots of paint, and it's very textural. It's like a glob of paint. almost. So when you're in the gallery, it doesn't come quite across in the image in front of you, but when you're in the gallery, you have a chance to stop by, really like notice that texture, and the layers in this work really stand out. And I thought he's a really interesting guy, I think, just in his take on his style, but also kind of his thoughts on art in general. And he, with a bunch of other artists, he displayed at this funk show, they called it funk art, in the 1960s, who were also at UC Davis, but they coined this idea of nut art, like you got to be a nut to make art and do art. And so it sort of has this kind of, they kind of described it as the mad genius in all of us, where the work of a peculiar and eccentric nut can truly be called nut art. So you can combine this idea with the American West was a big theme again, like we mentioned, and this idea of the journey, usually over mountains, and we see the mountains in the background. And again, those like playful dogs. And I thought I would just read this quote by him, which I think really sums it up, his style. So he says, "Making a drawing is like taking a trip. You start out on a simple trip to go someplace, but as you go along, you find yourself doubling back on yourself, getting into all kinds of unexpected situations and places." So I feel like we've kind of stumbled upon this sort of unexpected situation, but like you were saying, Koy, like they're chill about it. It's fine.
Yeah. It looks like they're enjoying the countryside and just like this whole new landscape, and it's like it seems very optimistic of good times ahead. So
yeah, I like that, and that's a great way. That's got to be 2021, right? Like
exactly. Yeah, after this year, like,
yeah. Optimistically looking ahead. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna look ahead to our final selection.
Yeah. One of my first.
Three. So this is one of your favorites. Okay.
It is one of my favorites. It is one of my favorites. Let me grab a glass here. Stone Xocoveza. So we make this beer once a year. It always comes out around October. It's a great holiday beer. Traditionally, a lot of dark beers, a lot of stouts, these big robust beers are great for colder weather. So this is always a really big holiday one for us, and it's got a really cool, a lot of cool story here. I'll pour it real quick as I talk. So every year Stone does every year except for 2020, because again, like let's look forward to next year. We do a homebrew contest. So we invite different home brewers to brew a batch of beer, and then we do a contest and a tasting with like our head brewers and our co-founders, try a bunch of it. Whoever wins, best beer, best style gets to come to the brewery and brew the beer with our team here. So it's, as a home brewer, go bring your garage, you get to come to Stone. It's kind of a big deal. So one of the first years we did this, this was actually the winner. It was a San Diego gentleman who came up with this recipe, and it won that year. And it was such a popular beer for us that Stone decided to put it into production. So it's become a year-round favorite. So,
that's awesome. That's a great story.
It is. And I'm not sure you quite see that with all the darkness in my shirt and stuff, but the beer does, or as you see there you go, it's much better in the photo. Very nice, dark, rich brown, almost black in the right shades. It's got a great nose to it. Again, the upside down can. So it's inspired by, it's again coming out of our Southern California roots, with a lot of the the Mexican heritage and history. This is inspired by a Mexican hot chocolate. So for anybody who's not had a Mexican hot chocolate, there's a lot of notes of coffee and dark chocolate, cinnamon. This one we add pasilla peppers and some nutmeg to it. So, as you can imagine, that it's very robust. It's got a lot going on. The peppers come through, not hot. I don't get a heat from it. So it's not a spicy pepper. It's just more of like the pepper notes. So like on the nose, like I'm a coffee drinker. So on the nose, I get dark roasted coffee. You can smell the dark chocolate, and the cinnamon comes through really nicely.
Nice.
It's excellent. I think this will probably be one of the highlights for everybody who's tasting with. It's one of my personal favorites we brew every year. This is the third year that we've brewed it in Richmond. This is a labor of love for our brewers. So, these beers are not always necessarily easy to brew. There's a lot of material that goes into it. Mm-hmm. So, story, the first year was 2018 that we brewed this. It was very troublesome for our brewers here in Richmond. They had never made this beer on our brew system here at this facility. And it just took them a while to kind of like dial it in. So it turned out really great that year. And I use that as a sales pitch. I'm like, this beer, a lot of effort went into it. So, definitely when you enjoy it, really know there's a lot of love put into these beers.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of flavors going on, just kind of listening to you list them and seeing them.
Yeah, very complex.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I feel like this would probably be a beer. A lot of times I hear about Stout. I mean, it's kind of a meal in itself. I mean, so kind of, is it a heavy? I mean, it's probably more heavier. I mean, would you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stouts do have a heavier body. I mean, I think when I was a young beer drinker, there was a few stouts, that coming from the 90s, there wasn't nearly the amount of craft beer that there is now. There's a few stouts that people would say like, oh, it's a really heavy, dark beer. But the bodies themselves, and you taste it, they're actually thin and light. They're very, very approachable. This has, I think, more of a medium body. It's not, the viscosity isn't real thick.
Okay.
It's have a nice mouthfeel. There's a lot of substance to it.
Cool.
And again, the flavor profile is really complex. And the great thing about stouts is, you pour it when the beer is cold. As it warms up to more of like a room temperature, it's like the 50, 60 degree mark, the flavors of the beer will come through really nicely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you recommend kind of like you keep it in the fridge, but kind of taking it out and letting it warm up a little bit?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I would, people who drink this, when it's really cold, it will kind of suppress some of the flavors, but as it warms, that will come out. But that's, it's not necessarily as true, especially for like the Stone Buenaveza, the first one we tried. Those beers are great, like out of the fridge, really cold. But yeah, stouts are just really, really complex this way. And stouts age very, very well. So, typically, and we didn't quite touch on this with IPAs. IPAs especially should be drunk really quickly. The longer they sit, the flavor profiles, the characteristics of the hops and the ingredients will start to break down and lose their, lose their strength. And but stouts tend to age really, really well.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, if somebody comes to you, whether it's Stone, hopefully not with Stone, but any beer, if it's an IPA and it's been 3-4 years old, it's probably going to taste terrible. But these beers age well.
Nice. So the packaging on this too is really colorful and eye-catching. And you mentioned, and again, in here, it's kind of that upside down as well. But how did the packaging come about, or is that also kind of a nod to that Mexican hot chocolate?
It is. It definitely is. So this year, actually, we changed the packaging. So the color scheme, what you're seeing right here, is new for 2020.
Okay.
Which we thought, and it makes a big difference. Breweries have to do that regularly. Update, upgrade the packaging. It means a lot. And I'm not. Same with wine. I'm not much of a wine drinker. I know certain styles I like. When I go to a wine shop, I have a few key metrics I look at. But one of them is usually the label. Like I'm picking out wine, I'm like that. Between these three, that one's got a great label. So. It makes a difference when you're in a store and there's so many options now and you see something cool. So this one has definitely done really well this year. Again, the color schemes I think pop out really well. And to me, it has a little bit of that kind of what you're saying was the artwork we looked at for Buenaveza as far as Virgin of Guadalupe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of those similar color schemes.
Yeah, color schemes for sure. And has almost that kind of like Aztec vibe to it a little bit too. And I think that is a good lead in to the work of where we're going to talk about with this this beer selection. So not Aztec, but a Mayan cup with a spiral of glyphs. So this is the oldest piece. And we've done a lot of contemporary work or modern work. So this is 300 to 900 AD. In our collection. I believe it's on view in our pre-Columbian galleries. So this is a stone cup, as I mentioned before. And the reason we picked this is we're pretty sure that this is a cup that would have been used to drink hot chocolate. So it's a great nod and connection with the Mexican hot chocolate inspiration for the stout. And, you know, hot chocolate and chocolate as a drink really originated with the Olmecs, who passed it along to the Mayans, and that's who really got it going as a beverage. And so again, this cup probably would have been used for that. And one reason, or one thing to look for, I'm gonna get my little pointer here. So this glyph right here, and it's a little bit difficult to make out. It's a little bit of a grainy picture, but this is a little fish head, we believe to be a fish head. And then these two dots over here. So the word for chocolate is cacao, or cacao, K-A-K-A-W, in Mayan glyphs. And the head of a fish is part of that glyph, which is the ka sound, and then doubled is cacao. And so a lot of times artists would put two dots to indicate that it's doubled, you know, if you're running out of space, or to save time. And so that gives a pretty good indication. We believe that this is could be that glyph to signify cacao to drink from. Chocolate would be used to drink from. So taking that cacao bean and like mashing it up, and then heating it up and adding peppers. I mean, adding that flavor and spice to the chocolate, much like in the beer you were just talking about, which is kind of cool. And then just to illustrate that a little bit more, these are not from the museum's collections. On the left, though, is a vessel from the Los Angeles County Museum. And you can see kind of a vessel here with froth coming out of it. So that is the hot chocolate. And froth was a really key part of the drink. So like the head of the beer, I just love these cross, it's just
absolutely
so beautiful. Kind of the similarities here. And he is in the foreground here is a dish of tamales with like a mole sauce over top of them. And he's looking at the drink kind of with excitement, ready to drink that. And then this is a drawing from a vase, and how the chocolate would have been kind of made. So actually poured from a different vessel into that larger container. So that creates the froth. So it really would have been sort of this ceremony or this performance in a way to kind of this is the chocolate, here it comes, and then people would get excited about it and then drink it and really drink it as a sign for like strength and virility and power, and you know, reserved for really the higher echelon to drink from. And the Mayans then like passed it on to the Aztecs. So at Montezuma was a big fan of hot chocolate and would reserve that only for like the high ranking soldiers, right, in his army to drink. And he would drink it like all day long, just hot chocolate all day. And you know, to show that he could take it, right? So it really has this, I mean, you know, we can thank like the Mayans for really starting hot chocolate as a drink. And then when the Spanish invaded and colonized and conquered, they brought the drink back to Spain, and that's where it took off in Europe, and then brought over to America. So it's sort of this right story of hot chocolate and all its associations. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. I would love to drink our beer out of this vessel. Like,
yeah.
The glass is great, but this is beautiful. This was I feel like this was a great find to really
yeah. And I'm thankful to our, you know, curator Joanna Minnick for helping me out with this one. And again, I'm speculating on the glyph, so she would definitely have to confirm that. And you know, she thinks it definitely could be. I think one thing she did mention, which is a kind of cool thing, you know, to confirm what was in these vessels, you can do testing. And any kind of residue that might be in the vessel to really confirm. And she was mentioning this has been cleaned so much over the years that it might be difficult to get that residue to try. but it's strong leaning to indicate that it would have been. But that spiral is so beautiful, and you kind of think about all the times that this was used, right, and cared for.
Absolutely.
It's got to tell some great stories.
Yes. Yeah. It's probably never had beer in it, but
no. And then lastly, just to pick up the notes you were talking about in this beer, the peppers. This work by Judy Rifka in the collection. This is a little watercolor and ink drawing. Not on view right now. Again, paper is tough to keep out for a long time. But Judy Rifka really is still practicing art today. This is a recent image of her in front of a work from 2015. And this work is from 1993. She does a lot of abstract and influenced by Russian constructivist work. So if you think of like shapes and again, sort of abstract narratives. So this is a little bit of a departure for her, focusing on the still life, but still has, again, that kind of abstract quality and a little bit of playfulness in the work, which I really love. I just love like seeing those little peppers. Almost looks like a squint smiley face kind of face, made of peppers and an orange.
Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah. And this is the way this piece came to the museum is kind of a cool story too. It was part of the Dorothy and Herbert Vogel collection, and they did a great program called 50 Works for 50 States. So each state in the country received 50 works of art from their collection. And he was a mailman, and she was a teacher, and they collected this work kind of over the years and amassed this collection, like storing it under their bed, like these like small works of art, and then gave this gift to the country, which is really inspiring and cool. And they were actually here. We had an exhibition when the works came, and they came and spoke. And there's a really good documentary, if anyone's interested, called Herb and Dorothy. So I would definitely suggest checking that out to kind of understand their full story. And so this is one of the 50 pieces that we have at the museum. And you can actually search. Our entire collection is online, and we're updating it, pretty frequently with new images. So I do encourage you to kind of just check that out and type in, there's a lot of different ways that you can search the collection and find out more about what the museum has. So Koy, I just want to thank you so much for sharing what Stone has to offer in those 3 selections and walking through that tasting with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Melissa had a family matter come up. She apologizes.
Oh no. Well, it was good to see her at the beginning.
Fine. Yeah, it's we can't always control, especially during a nice tasting like this. But she was really excited to be part of this as well. And yeah, we have a pretty good team here. So
yeah, you can definitely tell.
Thank you, Celeste. Yeah, it's been great. This is, I've been selling beer for some years now, and like this is a new experience for me. To do this, you're just used to like talking to people face to face, which is great, but this is a really, really cool way of showcasing beer in a new light, putting it with art. And I, as a Richmond resident, I love the VMFA, and I think it's a great treasure we have here in the city. So, Stone's really excited to be part of this.
Thank you so much. Well, I mean, I feel like too, like you all starting here, in Richmond and really coming to the city is great for the city too. So it's a good opportunity to get to know you guys better and showcase what you're doing in Richmond. So we're really excited about that. And before we go though, other than VMFA to go, where can people find your beers?
Oh boy, pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
We do. I'd like to think I do a good job as a salesman to make sure all the beer is out there. But Stone does we've been around long enough. We have a really good relationship with grocery stores. So Richmond area, every grocery store, most of the independent markets sell our stuff, plus many restaurants. And this is a great time of the year to go out and support your local spots, especially this year because he's had a hard time with it with the local restaurants. But Richmond's got a great dining scene, so it's been a really fun fun community to be part of.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. Well, and I want to thank Chase again, our sponsor, for bringing Taste of Art to you all, and encourage you to join future programs. We'll be back live with a chat discussion on December 11th with some champagne cocktails to bring in the holiday season. And then on Friday, January 8th, showcasing Virginia wines and our Artmobile program with that one. And we'll be back with beer on the 22nd TBD. So we're still working on who we will be tasting out with. And if you're watching this on the 27th or even before, Jazz Around the Museum is premiering at 7. But also you can go back, if you've missed a Taste of Art, please go back. We have all of our Taste of Arts up on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and taste again. And we really welcome you to do that. So thanks again, Koy. Again, I really appreciate it. And everybody, enjoy the rest of the evening.
That's right. Cheers.
Cheers.